Corneille Nangaa, the leader of the Congo River Alliance, AFC, which includes the M23 Rebels, has confirmed the death of 11 persons and 65 others sustaining injuries when multiple bombs were detonated in the Congo city of Bukavu when mammoth crowds of Congolese residents gathered at a rally organized by the rebel groups after they took over the town earlier in February 2025, with the Congolese President, Felix Tshisekedi, describing the bombings as a terrorist attack committed by a foreign army currently on Congolese soil. Corneille Nangaa, while addressing reporters on Thursday evening after the attack, said that the bomb attack was orchestrated by President Felix Tshisekedi-led Congolese government, adding that both the attacker and the woman were among the 11 dead. According to Nangaa, in the video footage of the news briefing, 6 out of the 65 persons injured during the bomb blasts are in critical conditions in the hospital. The attack caused 11 deaths and verifications are underway. The author of the attack is among the victims. Corneille Nangaa, leader of the Congo River Alliance, AFC, which includes the M23, told reporters during the press briefing, adding, "There are 65 injured, 6 of whom are seriously injured and are currently being treated in the operating room." The attack on Bukavu caused 11 deaths, including a woman and the perpetrator of the attack. He said that, "Following today's unfortunate incident, we are obliged to react." The incident occurred on Thursday when leaders of the M23 rebel group, including Nangaa, were meeting residents when the explosions occurred in the central part of Bukavu. Videos and photos shared on social media showed a very large crowd of people fleeing the mass rally in Bukavu and bloodied bodies on the ground. "We are accusing and condemning vigorously the criminal regime of Kinshasa, which just implemented its plan of exterminating civilian populations," AFC said in a statement. This attack caused several deaths, including a few terrorists from Kinshasa and some injured. 2 of them were immediately apprehended by our services. "This cowardly and barbaric act will not be without consequences," it added. Meanwhile, Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi called the attack a heinous terrorist act that was perpetrated by a foreign army illegally present on Congolese soil, according to AFP International News Agency. It was gathered that the rebel leader, Nangaa, who addressed the mammoth crowd of people in Bukavu, had left the stage before the bombs were detonated. Bukavu is one of 2 key cities in the Kivu region seized in recent weeks by the M23 rebels, who UN experts claimed are backed by Rwandan forces. Kigali has repeatedly denied backing the rebels. A first explosion caused panic, sending spectators fleeing, before a second explosion rang out. Some reports suggest there was a third blast, according to local media. Nangaa had left Independence Square, where the meeting had taken place at the time of the explosions, according to AFP journalists at the scene. It would be recalled that the M23 took control of South Kivu provincial capital Bukavu over a week ago, after capturing Goma, the capital of North Kivu and the main city in the country's east, late last month. The eastern DRC has been the scene of decades of relentless conflict but has been plunged into fresh turmoil as fighters from the M23 group seize a lot of territory in the 2 provinces. Local observers said that the seizure of Bukavu and Goma gives a major foothold in the mineral-rich region to the group, which resurfaced in late 2021. We had earlier in February 2025 reported that the M23 rebels have announced the takeover of South Kivu city of Bukavu in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and now in control of another major airport in the Kivu region, the Kalamo Airport, after the secessionist armed fighters sacked Congolese soldiers and foreign mercenaries. We had reported that the United Nations, UN, says dozens of inmates with more than 150 female prisoners alongside their babies were burnt alive on January 27, 2025 when some detainees at Muzenze prison in Goma set fire on the facility to escape after M23 advanced to take over the city, forcing prison guards to flee and shot dead many inmates. It would be recalled we had reported that In a bitter reaction to the statement credited to South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa over the killing of 13 SA soldiers in Goma by M23 rebels, Rwanda President Paul Kagame has talked off over President Ramaphosa's description of Rwanda Defense Force (RDF) as a militia group working with M23 and the SA president's threat. Racial and commented on President Cyril Ramaphosa's ex social media post published, accused South Africa of being a party in the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo who always launch offensive operations against M23 rebels, only trying to manipulate the public by thus falsely claiming to be a peacekeeper in a war the SA has joined hands to escalate. This, as hundreds of Romanian mercenaries contracted to fight against M23 rebels ceded or surrendered to M23 rebels in the presence of the rebels' spokesperson, Willy Ngoma, who was seen in videos warning and cautioning the Romanians never to come to Congo to fight against them before the Romanians were transported to Rwanda for further assistance to their country. We had reported that over 1,200 men of the Armed Forces of Democratic Republic of Congo have ceded or surrendered Goma, the country's largest city, to M23 rebels, with DRC military uniforms flooding the streets after the pulled off the army attires and took refuge at UN peacekeeping military base, leaving South Africa soldiers to continue to fight on. But South African military formation in Congo in a statement denying that its men did not surrender to M23 rebels, insisting that the white flag hoisted by one of his soldiers during heavy gun battle with the rebels was normal military tradition for both sides to cease fire to enable the South Africa troops passage to receive medical supply and as well give room to the M23 rebels the opportunity to rescue their men injured in front of the South Africa military base near Goma Airport. This, as thousands of pro-government protesters attacked and burned some portions of US, French, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and other foreign embassies in Kinshasa. We previously had reported that thousands of prisoners at Munzenze prison facility in Goma, the capital city of North Kivu province in the Democratic Republic of Congo, may have set themselves free after M23 rebels took control of Goma early morning hours, with videos posted online showing civilians flooding back to Goma and welcoming the M23 rebels in a rousing manner. Earlier same day, we also reported that one of the most troubled countries in Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo government begged civilian residents in the country to flood streets on Monday the 27th of January 2025 just as M23 rebels are now in control of Goma, after killing the Congolese military commander, over 9 South Africa soldiers, a total of 12 UN peacekeepers, forcing other Congolese soldiers to surrender their weapons before the 3 a.m. Monday 2025 deadline set. We had earlier in January 2025 reported that M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo early this year advanced and seized the town of Masisi. Same period, the Congolese government sent 172 death row prisoners to executioners, with 102 already confirmed executed, while the government kept mum on the third batch of 70 prisoners, including the May 19, 2024 37 coup plotters who were convicted and sentenced to death in September 2024, just as the country Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, threatened journalists with death penalty if they relate the activities of armed group he described as Rwanda Army and its M23 auxiliaries.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has raised alarms that there are foreign syndicates in Nigeria building camps and recruiting Nigerians for global cryptocurrency fraud and other cybercrimes, just as the chairman of the commission, Ola Olukoyede, says the Anti-Corruption Commission will strengthen its collaborations with other law enforcement agencies to fight financial crimes to scale up the performance of Nigeria's economy. Details of the news as presented by the Public Relations Unit of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, reads below. Organized foreign fraud syndicates establishing cells in Nigerian cities. Olukoyede, the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, has alerted Nigerians that organized foreign fraud syndicates are establishing cells in Nigerian cities and recruiting young Nigerians into serious organized cybercrimes, including cryptocurrency fraud. He made the disclosure in Abuja on Wednesday, February 26, 2025. While receiving participants of the Executive Intelligence Management course, EIMC 18 of the National Institute for Security Studies, NISS, led by the Director of Studies, Hyginus Ngele, to the Commission. Olukoyede expressed surprise on how bandits and insurgents are able to sustain their activities over the years, stressing that the flow of small arms and light weapons across our borders and the involvement of known state actors in the illegal exploitation of minerals in parts of the country all compound the threats in the security landscape. Another dimension that is not given attention is the discovery, recently, that organized foreign fraud syndicates are establishing cells in Nigerian cities and recruiting young Nigerians into serious organized cybercrimes, including cryptocurrency fraud, he said. Speaking further, he stated that by virtue of EFCC's recent discovery, we are beginning to see the likelihood, the propensity that a lot of these people are into illegal importation of arms into the country using cryptocurrency as means of payment. And this is an area that must interest all of us. In the special operations we carried out in Lagos recently, we arrested 194 foreigners in the heart of Victoria Island. 194 of them, Chinese, Filipinos, Eastern Europeans, Tunisians and the like, in one building at a time. You can imagine what these guys are doing, 194 of them. Some of them don't even have valid visas, and most of the financial activities they carried out they did through cryptocurrency. Another thing that we discovered is that some of the foreigners we arrested were already ex-convicts in their countries. Some of them have been convicted and escaped from their countries and found safe haven in Africa, not only Nigeria. We discovered that they are also developing cells in some other African countries by virtue of the investigation we are carrying out, he said. The EFCC's boss called for spirited efforts at both national and continental levels to combat the menace of internet fraudsters, stressing that the money laundering and national security dimension of the presence of foreign organized crime groups demand close scrutiny. All security, intelligence and law enforcement organizations in Nigeria and indeed Africa must close ranks in dealing with this challenge, he said. Olukoyede decried the fact that Nigeria, for nearly 2 decades, has been besieged by all manners of security challenges ranging from insurgency, banditry, kidnapping for ransom and farmer-herder clashes, which he partly blamed on activities of known state actors. Specifically, he noted that the role of known state actors in stoking the embers of security and corruption challenges has not been fully interrogated. At the level of the EFCC, we have always been suspicious of the activities of known state actors in the areas where we are challenged security-wise. In the Northeast, for instance, the activities of local and international NGOs have been under focus. This was a major impetus for the decision to mandate their registration with SCUML, Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, a department in EFCC, and a clear directive to notify the Commission on cash movements within the region, he said. Earlier in his speech, NISS Commandant Joseph Obul Odama, who spoke through Ngele, praised Olukoyede's leadership of the EFCC for the Commission's remarkable achievements in combating corruption, money laundering, and other financial crimes, noting that the achievements have not only strengthened Nigeria's integrity but have also served as a model for other nations in Africa and beyond. He further noted that the EFCC, under Olukoyede, has been at the forefront of investigating and prosecuting financial crimes, including those involving known state actors. Your Commission's exploratory activities have uncovered the intricate networks through which some NGOs and other entities channel funds to support hostile known state actors, thereby fueling instability in various parts of the country and the African continent. We recognize the critical role the EFCC plays in disrupting these networks and ensuring accountability. In light of this, We are particularly interested in hearing your insights on how your commission navigates the complexities of investigating and prosecuting cases involving known state actors. We also seek your contributions on how Nigeria and other African nations can strengthen legal and institutional frameworks to address the challenges posed by these actors while promoting transparency and accountability in their operations. Members of the NISSEIMCA team comprised 74 senior officers, drawn from Nigeria's intelligence community, the military, law enforcement agencies, including the EFCC, strategic government ministries, and representatives from the federal and state governments and international participants from Ghana, Somalia, Rwanda, and the Gambia. The theme for EIMC18 is Known State Actors in Security Management, Issues, Challenges, and Prospects for Peace and Development in Africa, which according to Ngele, was carefully selected in recognition of the growing influence of known state actors in shaping the security landscape across the continent. Part of the highlights of the visit featured an enlightenment and question and answer session, moderated by the Director of EFCC's Public Affairs Department, Commander of the EFCC, CE Wilson Owujeren, Director of SCUML, Commander of the EFCC, CE Daniel Isse, Director Special Duties, Office of the Executive Chairman, CE Friday Ebelo, and Director Legal and Prosecution, CE Silvanus Tahir, SAN, offered insights on what the EFCC has done in strengthening the anti-corruption engagement through its diverse activities. Olukoyede reaffirms using anti-graft fights to stimulate economic growth. The Executive Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, has reaffirmed the commitment of the Anti-Corruption Agency to strengthen its collaboration with law enforcement agencies in order to stimulate the economy. He disclosed this in Abeokuta, Ogun State on Monday, February 24, 2025 at the opening ceremony of the 5th edition of the Nigeria Police Annual Conference and Retreat for Senior Officers. The theme of the conference, Improving Nigeria's Internal Security and Economic Prosperity Through Inclusive Policing, he said, aligned with the vision and mission of the EFCC. Stimulating the economy of Nigeria is something that we take very seriously, as part of the theme of this conference, and I assure you of our solid support and commitment to the shared mandate, he said. While commending the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, for convening the conference with such a striking theme, he noted that the police laid a solid foundation for the EFCC. As EFCC, we identify ourselves with the Nigeria Police, and I thank the police for laying a solid foundation for the EFCC. It's a very solid foundation that we are building on, he said. He further noted that most specialized law enforcement agencies in Nigeria came from the Nigeria Police. He reaffirmed the resolve of the EFCC to continue to collaborate and synergize with the Nigeria Police in the area of prevention and investigation of financial crimes. Continuing, he pointed out that we have identified ourselves with the very serious mandate of the recovery of proceeds of crime, and I assure you of our solid support and commitment to the shared mandate. Dignitaries at the event included Vice President Kashim Shettima, the Ogun State Governor, Mr. Dapo Abiodun, members of the National Assembly, ministers, service chiefs, top government officials, industry leaders, and other key stakeholders.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Contrary to media speculations that the embattled Ukraine has reached an agreement with the United States, US-led President Donald Trump on the rare earth minerals deal required as exchange or economic benefits for the US to continue to assist the war-torn Ukraine with military aid against ongoing President Vladimir Putin-led Russian military destructions and bring peace to the country. The Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, in a video press release on Wednesday night debunked the speculations, saying, the US and the Ukrainian teams have been working together in preparation for the negotiations on the terms of the economic deal this coming Friday in the US, signaling no agreement has been reached yet. Zelensky in the video press release emphasized that for any meaningful peace deal to be reached, Europe must be involved in the negotiations and the peace deal must guarantee Ukraine territorial security from future Russia invasions and encroachments. In addition to the video press release posted on his verified X social media account, he also tweeted and stated thus, "Today, there has been a lot of international work. Our teams are working with the United States as we prepare for negotiations this Friday, the agreement with the US. The support of our country and people, peace and security guarantees are the key to ensuring that Russia can no longer destroy the lives of other nations. I will meet with the President of the United States, US. For me and for all of us in the world, it's important that US support is not stopped. Strength is needed on the path to peace. I am grateful to all the partners who continue to support us, and to all our people who believe in Ukraine." Some international news agencies had reported on Wednesday that the Ukraine and the US have reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal that would include access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, three senior Ukrainian officials said Tuesday, according to one of the world news networks. According to AP, the officials, who were familiar with the matter, spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. One of them said that Kyiv hopes that signing the agreement will ensure the continued flow of US military support that Ukraine urgently needs. The agreement could be signed as early as Friday and plans are being drawn up for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to travel to Washington to meet President Donald Trump, according to one of the Ukrainian officials. Another official said the agreement would provide an opportunity for Zelensky and Trump to discuss continued military aid to Ukraine, which is why Kyiv is eager to finalize the deal. Trump, speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, said he'd heard that Zelensky was coming and added that, "It's okay with me, if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me." Trump called it a big deal that could be worth $1 trillion. It could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. We had reported that the United States President, Donald Trump, has said that if the war in Ukraine is not stopped now, it could lead or escalate to World War III, with the visiting French President, Emmanuel Macron, insisting that Russia is the aggressor of the war, hence Russia must pay damages as part of the negotiations for the peace deal. But the US, in another meeting at the United Nations General Assembly on Monday, joined Russia to vote against a resolution condemning Russia over the war in Ukraine. We had reported that, following the public criticism of President Donald Trump of the United States that the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, is a man who has lost touch with his people and a dictator who refused to conduct election. For new leader to take over the affairs of the country, Zelensky, while asked if he could resign by a journalist at a press conference organized to mark the third-year anniversary of war in Ukraine, says he would do that if it would bring peace to Ukraine, and he's ready to do that as exchange for Ukraine to be enlisted as a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. We had earlier reported that despite the medical condition that he's under the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the third-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russia government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war, which started on February 24, 2022, as painful, shameful for all humanity. Previously, we reported that the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelensky stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began, United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelensky a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past U.S. President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money on a war the North America country will not get any profit in return, with the Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Federal High Court sitting in Lagos State on Wednesday remanded Jude Okoye, the ex-manager and elder brother of Peter and Paul of P Square, to Ikoyi prison over allegations of stealing billions of naira belonging to his younger twin brothers by thus creating an almost similar company name, Northside Music, to collect P Square royalties that ought to belong to the original company, Northside Entertainment. Details of the report as presented by the Public Relations Unit of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, reads in full below. The Lagos Zonal Directorate of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Wednesday, February 26, 2025, arraigned Jude Okoye Chigozie, older brother and ex-manager of Paul and Peter Okoye of the defunct P Square Music Group, before Justice A.O.O.A. of the Federal High Court, sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos. He was arraigned alongside his company, Northside Music Limited, on a 7-count charge bordering on money laundering to the tune of 1.38 billion nairas, $1 million and 34,537 pounds and 59 pence. One of the charges reads, that you, Jude Okoye Chigozie and Northside Music Limited, sometimes in 2022, in Lagos, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, did directly acquire a landed property known as Number 5, Tony Eromosele Street, Parkview Estate, Ikoyi, Lagos, worth 850 million nairas, 850 million naira only, which money you knew or reasonably ought to have known forms part of proceeds of unlawful act and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 18(2)(d) and punishable under Section 18(3) of the Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act, 2022. Another charge reads, that you, Jude Okoye Chigozie and Northside Music Limited, sometimes in 2022, in Lagos, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, did indirectly using bureau de change, converted the sum of $1,019,762.87, $1,019,762.87, domiciled in Access Bank PLC operated by Northside Music Limited, to the naira equivalent and remitted into various bank accounts with intention of concealing that the said fund formed part of the proceeds of an unlawful act and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 18(2)(a) and punishable under Section 18(3) of the Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act, 2022. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, following which prosecution counsel, LP ASU, applied for a trial date and for Okoye to be remanded in a correctional facility. The defense counsel, Inibehe Effiong, however, informed the court of Okoye's bail application and prayed for a short date of adjournment to enable its hearing. The defense counsel also prayed that the defendant be rather remanded in the EFCC custody pending the hearing of the bail application. Objecting to the prayer for the defendant to be remanded in EFCC's custody, the prosecution counsel argued that the commission's holding facility was already congested with suspects awaiting arraignment and that the court should remand the defendant in the correctional facility since he has taken his plea. Justice Owoye adjourned the matter till February 28, 2025 for the hearing of the bail application and April 14, 2025 for trial, and ordered that the defendant be remanded in Ikoyi Correctional Center. It would be recalled that in August 2024, we had reported that the Nigerian music and breakdance star, Peter Okoye aka Mr. P of the P Square Group, has accused his twin brother, Paul Okoye aka Rude Boy and their elder brother, Jude Okoye, of working together to always humiliate him, with the twin brother telling lies to make fans hate him as if he, Peter, is always jealous of him. Peter Okoye, in a news statement captured as an open letter addressed to his twin brother, Paul Okoye, said they have lost command in the pulling of crowds of people or fans, unlike when they were together as P Square. Adding, since the both splitted with different brand names as Mr. P and Rude Boy, they have not been able to stage a show with the entire stadium filled with people, unlike the years they were together as P Square. Peter Okoye accused their elder brother of trying to oppress him, adding, instead of his younger and twin brother, Paul, to work together with him to build P Square, he decided to pitch tent with Jude, whom in the open letter he described as someone not helping matter. Peter, in the second letter he issued same day, attributed the likely cause of problems in the P Square group to their elder brother, Jude, whom he accused was always stealing their money while they were together as P Square. According to Peter, their elder brother secretly created a company similar to the name of the original company they were using to receive royalties as P Square. Adding, unknown to him, the elder brother diverted millions of dollars and naira of their money to the secret company account, which he said both the elder brother and wife, Ifoma, were the directors of the company, and the address of the registered secret company was the family house of his elder brother's wife. He said he never petitioned his twin brother before EFCC. Rather, it was his elder brother, Jude, that was petitioned, invited, questioned and detained by the EFCC. Peter Okoye words read verbatim in parts thus, before I tell you the whole story, here is what I need you all to understand. It's always surprising to me when people say, P Square is always bringing their family matters into the public eye. Let me clarify this. P Square is not just a family, it's a public brand, but Peter, Paul, Jude, Anita, Ifoma, Lola, and the rest of our family members are family, but P Square is an entity that belongs to the public as much as it does belong to us. Our fans have played a significant role in our success, so they have the right to know what's happening with their beloved brand P Square. That's why it's understandable when certain aspects of our lives are shared publicly. Now, let's get straight to the point. I want to make it clear that I never reported my twin brother Paul to the EFCC. I know many of you were disappointed when Paul accused me of doing so. He mentioned that I wrote a petition against him, which he claimed made the EFCC to ask him to provide a surety. This statement suggested that he was detained, which is not true. Peter, Paul and Jude own a management company together called Northside Entertainment, which we use to manage all of P Square's affairs. One day, I discovered another company with a similar name, but this one was called Northside Music instead of Northside Entertainment. This surprised me, so I decided to investigate further, and guess what? To my shock, the founders and directors of this secret company were none other than Jude Okoye and his wife Ifoma Okoye, and the registered address was the family home of Jude's wife. Still in shock, I knew I had to talk to Paul about it. I approached him multiple times, at least 4 different times, asking if he knew anything about this secret company and the whereabouts of some of P Square's royalties. Each time I met with him, he denied knowing anything about it. I want to set the record straight. I hereby challenge Paul, or anyone else, to show any petition that I, Peter Okoye, ever submitted against my twin brother Paul, or that has Paul's name on it. I am still writing this with so much shock because I gave clear instructions to my legal team, with a standing order, that under no circumstances should Paul be included in my petition. Their focus was to remain solely on the primary suspects, Jude Okoye and his wife, Ifoma Okoye, since they were the directors of this secret company. Northside Music. Paul's recent interview about the EFCC incident contains a lot of lies. I watched and listened to Paul's interview. I was totally speechless and I kept asking myself, how does Paul have the audacity to publicly tell lies like this, even with a respected and reputable agency like the EFCC? He claimed I petitioned him, but that's not something that ever happened to Paul. The truth is, this was something that actually happened to Jude. The real story goes back to the shocking discovery I made, but what really got me very upset was finding out that for years, millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of naira were being secretly diverted into this secret company's account, Northside Music, from our own company, Northside Entertainment. This was not just a minor issue. It was a massive betrayal that had been going on for several years. I understand that Paul is angry because I took this matter to the EFCC, and I understand why. However, bearing in mind that I have met Paul and Jude separately and tried to discuss this matter and it yielded me with no positive answer. In fact, the last time I approached Paul, the conversation got heated up and he said, and I quote, "Peter, go and do your worst." At this stage one was left with no other choice but to report to the authorities and take legal actions. Jude was then detained after being questioned. He came clean and admitted he had been diverting millions of dollars of our money to this secret company that he and his wife were the director of. All of Jude's bank accounts were immediately frozen. He was eventually released on bail after he managed to provide a surety and met the other bail conditions. Meanwhile, further investigations are still going on up until now. Paul's name was never mentioned in the petition because he was never a director of this secret company, unless there is something he is hiding from all of us. Paul was only invited for questioning, just like Jason Njoku of Iroko TV, Amaju Pinnick, and others who had transactional dealings with Northside Music. The EFCC investigation found out that Northside Music had been secretly collecting P-Square's royalties over the years. This royalty money was sent to a bureau de change, then transferred to Jude's personal bank account. A closer look at Jude's account statement revealed that once the money entered his personal account, there were multiple transactions where he was splitting the funds equally with Paul, without Peter. This naturally led to some questions. After Jude confessed to diverting the funds, he also told the EFCC that the money he had been sending to Paul for several years wasn't about sharing money behind Peter's back. Instead, it was money he owed Paul from the sale of their house in America, which he was gradually paying back the loan. This is the reason why Paul has been telling everyone that the EFCC has cleared him, as if I ever wanted him to get into trouble with the EFCC. The story is very long, but I will tell it all in due time. For now, I will stop here until the EFCC sends the final report to my legal team. Once that happens, before heading to the law court, I will make the exact petition that doesn't include Paul's name public. I will also release the EFCC final report, receipts, and other documents related to this secret company, including the CAC registration, bank transactions, and bank statements that Jude set up with his wife, Ifoma Okoye. May God help us all.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Edo State government under the leadership of Governor Monday Okpebholo has raided some popular Ashawood joints in Benin City, the state capital, and made arrests, with one of the arrested suspects insisting she is not a commercial sex worker, that she only came out to buy or get something for herself around Ihama area at night when the task force led by the Edo State Migration Agency raided the area in continuation of the 34 persons arrested earlier in the month in line with the Edo State law on human trafficking and irregular migration. The suspect, who protested her innocence as seen in the video made available on Tuesday by one of the popular TV broadcasters in the state, Deborah Ivie Ogbefun, was forced into the task force vehicle, but she continued to protest her innocence, insisting she only came out to buy something. The leader of the task force, who accused her of being stubborn, ordered his men to take her away. It is not clear if she was detained or the task force set her free, as the helpless lady was seen calling her boyfriend and apparently wailing. While she was inside the vehicle, one of the task force officers asked her the whereabouts of her bag or small handbag commercial sex workers do hold that do contain some few clothes they used for exchange and makeups. The arrested suspect, who appeared to be provoked, raised her voice on the task force officer that she does not have, that she only came out to buy food. Earlier in February, 34 persons were arrested and paraded by the Edo State Migration Agency, EDMA, when the agency busted joints of the underage commercial sex workers who were said to be people who came into the city from other states in Nigeria. It would be recalled that in 2022, we had reported that the then Edo State government, under the leadership of Governor Godwin Obaseki, has begun the mass arrest of street prostitutes, often referred to as ashawo or night workers. A campaign poster made available to the public before the mass arrest commenced in some major locations around the Benin metropolis in July 2022 indicated that the government wants the commercial sex workers chased out of the Ihama, Zapoba, GRA, Sapele Road, Obowo Road, Donson, Upper Mission Extension, and Ekewan Road in the state capital. Also early this month, as part of the Edo State government strategy to strengthen irregular migration laws and curb the menace of human trafficking, Edo State Migration Agency held a meeting with hoteliers operators in the state. Details of the meeting, as contained in the press release made available by the Public Relations Unit of the Edo State Migration Agency, reads below. The Director General, Honorable Lucky Agazuma, received hotelier operator in his office in line with the ongoing sensitization on the need to get them profiled. In his remark, the DG stated that the invitation was to enlighten them about the menace of human trafficking and irregular with the new law of the Edo State Migration Agency, so as to be guided in their operations, because some of the hoteliers might be doing what they don't know is a crime. He noted that the agency is collaborating with key stakeholders in the state and outside the state to fight the menace of human trafficking and irregular migration and redeem the beautiful name of Edo people. Furthermore, the DG gave a strong warning to those involved in human exploitation, organ harvesting, sexual exploitation, and child trafficking to desist from it, and if found guilty, the trafficker risks jail term and the property will be confiscated. He further stressed that the state government has set out strategies to profile brothels across the state to have an idea of their operation, and it is a serious offense if denied access when carrying out investigations. He therefore informed the hoteliers to ensure strict adherence to the laws and collaborate with the agency using the See Something, Say Something, and Sorted Out method (SSS). In his closing remarks, the DG thanked those that adhere to the invitation and encouraged others to make themselves available for profiling to ensure strict adherence to the law and together fight against human trafficking and irregular migration is achieved.
I got your mouth, hold on. Now shut up your mouth.
Hold on. You can quiet.
Shut up. I brought you.
Hence, you are violent. Pick her and keep her in the box. Send her to the shelter. Yes. Hey. Arrest her, please.
Can you stay quiet? Take her to the box.
Hands over there.
Hello.
Who are those with that boat that you don't want to quiet. Where am I? Where am what do you tell me? When I live there, what should I do you talk to people anyhow. Wait. Excuse me, everybody, please. Wait. See, excuse me, sorry, where is the bag she's holding?
Yeah, that's the bag.
Where is the bag? All this shit.
Osazuwa Corneille, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo has blamed militants and herders over the killing of 24 persons in Medoti, Belomonti among other 5 villages in the Ovia Southwest local government area and Opekpe in the Esako East local government area of Edo State, says he has deployed more troops to the affected communities, with AIT News Media showed on the spot assessment video footage of some residents fleeing the communities, just as another report indicated that a little boy was also killed on Friday at Egware Irua in the Esan Central local government area of the state. Former Special Advisor to Edo State Governor on Youth Affairs, Shidrach Odubai said the little boy in Egware Irua was killed. Immediately he returned from school, and he was declared missing. His lifeless body was later found the next day, being Saturday 22nd of February at the back of his house. Vital organs like the heart, legs and fingers were missing. It is said that the boy's parents are originally from Muweson, where the Monday Okpebholo hails from. How many I go fit talk? From Opekpe in Esako East, to Erad in Oan East, to farm settlements in Ovia Southeast, down to Esan Central where Monday Okpebholo hails from. Insecurity they bite Edo people, Udubai stated. Governor Okpebholo in the press release as made available by the Chief Press Secretary to the Edo State Governor on Tuesday, Fred Itwa stated that the Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo, has condemned the recent attacks on 7 farming communities in Ovia Southwest local government area, which resulted in the loss of 22 lives and widespread destruction of property. The governor has also denounced the killing of 2 farmers, Betemo Philip Ebo and Christopher Bello, in Opekpe community, Esako East local government area, by suspected herdsmen. The devastating attack on 7 farming communities in Ovia Southwest, which left 22 people dead, and several others injured, were reportedly carried out by militants. The militants also destroyed buildings and farm produce worth millions of naira. We will not tolerate any form of violence or lawlessness in Edo State, Governor Okpebholo said. We will work tirelessly to ensure that those responsible for these heinous acts are brought to justice, and we will do everything in our power to prevent such incidents from happening again in the future. Meanwhile, Governor Okpebholo has ordered the deployment of additional security personnel to the affected areas and the provision of support to the affected communities. We are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all Edo State residents, Governor Okpebholo said. We will work closely with the security agencies, traditional leaders, and community members to achieve this goal. The governor has also called on the people of Edo State to remain calm and to cooperate with the security agencies as they work to address the crisis. We urge everyone to remain calm and to go about their normal business, Governor Ola said. We are doing everything possible to ensure that the situation is brought under control. Meanwhile, Shidrach Odubai, the former Edo State Special Advisor to the Governor Godwin Obaseki on Youth Affairs said, Monday Opebholo and the APC have conscientiously undermined our local vigilante network and have brought us to this low point. Federal government agencies with yearly budgets running into hundreds of billions is what Edo State government is now investing out hard-earned resources on, with no hope of returns. Monday Opebholo carry our state money day by cars. They dash federal government staff in federal institutions laced with perpetual corruption, while our vigilantes are stranded in the bushes. It was because of the clandestine interest of the federal government to rig elections for Monday Opebholo that the Edo Security Network was disbanded. Just to ensure that they rigged the election without any form of organized resistance. The local government chairmen who were responsible for sponsoring, coordinating and supervising the local security network were all sacked by Monday Opebholo, and some insanely ambitious councillors, dummies and mindless cronies of APC were dubiously installed as acting chairmen. Today, nobody in the local government council can respond. When Monday Opebholo became governor, he pulled down the leadership of the Edo Security Network, brought in some inexperienced and unskilled surrogates to occupy the leadership of the network. This resulted in widespread protests. For Edo APC, everything and an opportunity to empower themselves irrespective of capacity. Monday Opebholo has exterminated the services of the Edo Constabulary Service. These were fully trained men and women with police uniforms, instituted by Godwin Obaseki to provide security presence in areas of need, where the officers of the Nigerian police force can't cover due to shortage of manpower. Today Edo State Constabulary is in limbo. Finally, because of lack of understanding of what governance entails, those APC clowns around Monday Opebholo convinced him to dedicate tens of billions to buy vehicles as gifts to security agencies as an attempt to end insecurity. Insecurity be like rain, and everybody he dey beat. This is the local government of the Deputy Governor, Ovia Southwest, Shidrach Odubai stated via his Facebook account on Tuesday. We had reported that the immediate past governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, has sent some words of sympathy to the people of Opekwe community in the Esako East local government area of Edo State following the killing of 2 persons, Emefiele aka Ebo and Christopher Bello, by suspected herdsmen on Monday, calling on the state governor, Monday Opebholo, and other authorities responsible for the security of the state to act swiftly, just as the council chairperson in charge of the local government, Benedicta Atores, alarmed that if the state government fails to act fast, the entire North Ibe people may be wiped out by the suspected Fulani herders, with another report of the head of the vigilante group in Arab community in the Oan East local government area of the state, Victor Ogendegbe, also killed in cold blood by attackers suspected to be Fulani herdsmen. Previously, we reported that the Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force has confirmed the killing of 7 persons on Friday during a communal clash between the people of Gwelimonti and Medoti communities in the Ovia Southwest local government of Edo State, with the police also arresting a member of the Edo State vigilante group who shot dead and set ablaze a victim he falsely accused of being a thief out of malice due to misunderstanding the vigilante member had with the deceased, just as the new commissioner of police, Enekun Otimenin, subjects police personnel in the state to retraining.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Immediate past governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, has sent some words of sympathy to the people of Opekwe community in the Esako East local government area of Edo State following the killing of 2 persons, Emefiele aka Ebo and Christopher Bello, by suspected herdsmen on Monday, calling on the state governor, Monday Opebholo, and other authorities responsible for the security of the state to act swiftly, just as the council chairperson in charge of the local government, Benedicta Atores, alarmed that if the state government fails to act fast, The entire North Ibe people may be wiped out by the suspected Fulani herders, with another report of the head of the vigilante group in Arab community in the Oan East local government area of the state, Victor Ogendegbe, also killed in cold blood by attackers suspected to be Fulani herdsmen. Former Governor Obaseki, through his personal social media accounts on Monday, said the attack on the community was unfortunate and mindless. He said, "I am deeply saddened by the unfortunate and mindless attack on Opekwe community in Esoko East local government area of Edo State by suspected herdsmen, leading to the gruesome killing of 2 innocent citizens, Betemu Philip Ebo and Christopher Bello. My heart and prayers are with the people of Opekwe community and families of the deceased at this very difficult time. Such mindless attacks are tragedies we pray never to witness in our communities. We urge all state actors responsible for security in the state to respond swiftly to put an end to this mayhem, and ensure that those responsible for this heinous act are brought to justice," Obaseki words ends in quote. The council chairperson, Honorable Benedicta Atto, in a press release issued on Monday by the council boss chief press secretary, Benjamin Atto, said the victims were killed in the morning on their way to the farm. The executive chairman of Esoko East Local Government Council, Honorable Princess Benedicta Atto, has expressed concern about the ongoing killing in the Opekwe community in North Ibe zone, saying if the state government does not take immediate action to stop the killing, the entire community will be wiped out. She described today, Monday, February 24th, as a Black Monday in the Opekwe community, as Mr. Philip Betemu aka Ebo and another Mr. Christopher Bello were killed this morning by suspected Fulani herders on their way to their farms. Honorable Princess Atto, who lamented the ongoing spate of killings by marauding Fulani herdsmen and militias across the council, said Esoko East has become a killing field. We urge the governor of the state to deploy security across the community bushes and activate local vigilante, which she has consistently used to secure the council area. She frowned against the federal government's ambivalent stance amid the herdsmen's attacks, which she said is taking too many lives. It is time to tackle this high-level insecurity by deploying military in parts of the bush and farm areas to give the farmers an immediate sense of safety in their farmlands, she said, according to the press release issued by the council chief press secretary. Meanwhile, an aspirant for Oan federal constituency in the coming election in 2027, Barrister Joseph Eriki, has expressed deep sadness over the heinous murder of Victor Ogendegbe, he described as a vibrant and outspoken young man from Iran, who he said was callously killed in cold blood. In a press statement, Barrister Eriki said, he also made reference to the recent violent attack by suspected herdsmen on Opekwe community in Esoko East local government area of Edo State, which claimed the lives of 2 innocent citizens, Betemu Philip and Christopher Bello, which he says is yet another painful loss that must not be ignored. My heart and prayers go out to the people of Iraq and Opekwe, as well as the families of the victims, during this difficult time. These senseless attacks are avoidable tragedies that we must do everything possible to prevent in our society. He therefore called on all state security agencies in Edo State to act swiftly, put an end to this violence, and ensure that those responsible for these atrocities are brought to justice. I am therefore appealing to His Excellency, Senator Monday Okpebholo, and all relevant security agencies to conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that the perpetrators face the full weight of the law. As a community leader, I remain committed to advocating for the safety and security of our people. I will continue to engage relevant stakeholders, amplify the voices of the affected communities, and push for decisive actions to protect Iran, Oan, and its environs, the legal practitioner stated.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Monday presented before a federal high court sitting in Abuja its 9th witness, who happened to be a staff of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN over the allegations of money laundering and embezzlement of 4 billion naira from the coffers of Anambra State government by the immediate past governor, Willie Obiano, to which the ninth witness claimed that the 3 out of the 23 companies the EFCC alleged Obiano used to commit the fraud were not licensed by the CBN, adding that the 3 companies had since been delisted as one of the financial operators in the country. This also followed the testimonies of the third and fourth witnesses presented by the EFCC last year that alleged they were bringing physical cash in millions to the embattled former governor. Details of the report as presented by the Public Relations Unit of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC reads below. Alleged 4 billion naira's fraud. Obiano used unlicensed companies for fraud witness. The trial of Willie Obiano, former governor of Anambra State, continued on Monday, February 24, 2025 before Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, presenting its ninth witness. Obiano is facing prosecution by the EFCC on 9-count charges of embezzlement and money laundering to the tune of N4 billion. At Monday S proceedings, the EFCC called prosecution witness 9, PW9, Andrew Ali, a staff of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and head of the license office, who revealed that 3 companies out of the 23 company accounts connected with the alleged 4 billion naira's fraud were not duly licensed with the CBN to carry out bureau de change business. Ali, while being led in evidence by prosecution counsel, Sylvanus Tahir, San, disclosed that Connaught International Service, SY Panda Enterprise and Ziga Trading Company were not licensed to carry out BDC business, adding that Ziga has been delisted from the CBN license list before 2014. Sometimes around April 2023, we received 2 letters from the EFCC regarding some 23 financial institutions to know if they were licensed or not. I recall forwarding the 2 letters to the desk officer, who upon review, said we have received such letters in the past before, so we comprehensively replied the EFCC in a letter dated May 21, 2023, and as seen in the letter of our response, out of 23 companies, 3 of them were not registered, he said. The 8-page letter from the EFCC and the response were admitted in evidence and marked as Exhibit A1A8. While being cross-examined by defense counsel, Onyechi Ikpeazu, San, Ali recalled that Ziga Trading Company did not meet the licensing requirements before 2014. Once you do not meet the requirements, you are delisted. It is in public knowledge that we only supervise the people that are licensed. Once you are not on our list, we lose the power to supervise you. We run public notice to sensitize the public not to operate with unlicensed companies, which is also on our website. He stated further that, it is stated clearly in Section 15 and 19 of the CBN Revised Operational Guidelines 2015. Our work is to regulate and supervise them. Once you do not meet the requirement of renewable licensing, you will be delisted, and we publish it on our valedictory list, which is on our website. BDCs also have operational accounts which they do business with. They are not allowed to do business without those accounts, he revealed. Justice Ekwo adjourned the matter to February 26, 2025 for continuation of trial. How we supplied Obiano cash from state security votes witnesses. The trial of Willie Obiano, former governor of Anambra State, continued on June 26, 2024 before Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, with 2 prosecution witnesses disclosing how they supplied Obiano cash in both naira and dollars through his proxies. Ugochukwu Chinedu, prosecution witness, PW3, and a former banker between November 2, 2008 to March 26, 2023, who was the account manager of the Anambra State government accounts, including the state security vote account, told the court that he usually delivered raw cash in both naira and US dollars to Obiano in line with the instructions given to him by Willie Olukoyede and Theophilus Mays, Obiano's former principal secretary and accountant at the state government's house, respectively. who were signatories to the security votes account. I usually process transactions with the principal secretary, either daily or weekly, mostly using the instruments of checks. I will go to his office on Fridays to balance the account. All the transactions I carried out were usually based on the instructions given to him by the account holders, he said. Further in his testimony, the PW3 stated that, sometimes around July 2021, I was called by the compliance officer that they received an invitation from EFCC regarding an ongoing investigation into the administration of the Anambra State Government Security Votes account. In the course of the investigation, I was asked to provide details into some other accounts that I managed, which included Odo Ventures Limited, Moment of Peace Limited, Easy Diamond Integrated Links Limited, CI Party Ventures Nigeria Limited, Expressive Consult Nigeria Limited, among others. Documents relating to those accounts were marked PW3A1 to A215, tendered and admitted in evidence. In the same vein, Hayatu Hassan, a businessman and prosecution witness for PW4, who operates 5 bureau de change companies, namely Celtris BDC Limited, Celtris Limited, Connaught International Services Limited, Holder Limited, and Norrisili Limited, disclosed that he made a total sum of 222,371,000 nairas, 222,371,000 available in dollar equivalent to the government of Anambra State under Obiano. Sometimes last year, I was invited by the EFCC Abuja office and I was asked if I had any business with the Anambra State government and I said no. Then, the person interviewing me showed me that my company Connaught International Services Limited has done some transactions with the state government. He showed me some payments in 7 transactions that were done in my Connaught account. 2 different transactions were in February 2018, about 172 nairas, 371,000, 172 million, 371 naira, and it was for $465,000, 465,000 US dollars. The other one was in March 2018 for 50 million nairas and it was for $135,000, 135 US dollars, making a total of $600,000, 600,000 US dollars and naira equivalent of 222 nairas, 371,000. I sold the dollars to Ayuba Tanko, another BDC operator. As soon as the transaction was done, I handed over the dollars to Ayuba Tanko. I didn't know it was from the Anambra State government, he said.
Bring in the news in a more digital way.
One of the numbers of courts used by the federal government under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to challenge the operational activities and exercise of authorities by the former governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has fixed February 26, 2025 to rule on recusal application filed by the embattled ex-CBN governor after the Special Offences Court judge was accused of being biased and unfair in his handling of the case before the court sitting in Lagos State. This is coming after another court-ordered final forfeiture of billions of naira worth of properties allegedly linked to the most troubled, investigated, humiliated and detained ex-governor of CBN in Nigeria history. Details of the report as contained in numbers of news releases made available by the Public Relations Unit of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, reads verbatim below. Court to rule on Emefiele's application alleging bias, February 26. Justice R.A. Oshodi of a Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja, Lagos, has adjourned till February 26, 2025 to deliver ruling on an application by a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, asking the trial judge to recuse himself alleging bias. Emefiele is standing trial on a 19-count charge bordering on receiving gratification and corrupt demand preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. His co-defendant, Henry Omoy, is facing a 3-count charge bordering on unlawful acceptance of gifts by agents. They have pleaded not guilty to the charges. At Monday's proceedings, February 24, 2025, the prosecution led by Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN, concluded the examination-in-chief of the 7th prosecution witness, PW7, Adetola John, but rather than proceed with the cross-examination, counsel for Emefiele, Olalekan Ojo, SAN, and Omo's counsel, Kazim Badamosi, SAN asked the court to recuse itself on the allegation of bias. The defense refused to cross-examine the witness and through an oral application, unanimously asked the court to recuse itself alleging bias. Oyedepo, however, vehemently opposed the application. He said, "In this proceeding, your lordship had numerous times ruled against the prosecution, and if defense is dissatisfied with the ruling of the court, they can appeal. I do not know what defense is trying to prove by telling this court to recuse itself, because in this case, there is no evidence of allegation of bias. This is a form of delay tactics, and I urge your lordship to discountenance this application, because a reasonable person in this court will realize that this application is meant to delay this trial." The court had earlier granted accelerated hearing in this case, and I urge this honorable court to ask defense to cross-examine the witness. Thereafter, Justice Oshodi adjourned to rule on the application. Court orders final forfeiture of 830 million nairas, $4.7 million, properties linked to Emefiele. Justice Yelin Bogoro of the Federal High Court, sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos, on Friday, February 21, 2025, ordered the final forfeiture of $4,719,054, $4,791,000. 54 cents and 830,875,611 nairas, 830,875,611 naira, as well as a number of properties linked to the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele. The judge gave the order following a motion on notice filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The commission had, through the motion filed by its counsel, Bilikisu Buhari, sought a final forfeiture of the monies and properties having been established to be proceeds of unlawful activity pursuant to Section 17 of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act, 2006, Section 44, 2b of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The monies, which are domiciled in First Bank, Titan Bank and Zenith Bank, are being operated by Omol Anita Joy, Deep Blue Energy Service Limited, Exactco Bureau de Change Limited, Lipam Investment Services Limited, Tatla Services Limited, Rosajul Global Resources Limited and Telecommunication Nigeria Limited. The properties consist of 94 units of 11-story buildings under construction on Number 2, Otumba Elegushi 2nd Avenue, formerly Club Road, Ikoyi, Lagos, AM Plaza, 11-story office space, situated on 1E, Otumba Adedoyin Crescent, Lekki Peninsula Scheme 1, Lagos, Iwa Industrial Park 1, Esa Street, Iwo land purchased with Deep by the Industrial Town, Oriade LCDA, Amoa Odofin Local Government Area, Lagos, Metalwood and Tatla Warehouse, Furniture Plant at Bogije, near Elimoro, Lagos, Owolobi Village, Ibeju Lekki LGA, Lagos, and 2 properties purchased from Chevron Nigeria, closed PFA Fund, Block B Lot Twin Completed Property Lex Estate, Lekki, Lagos. Others are a plot of land measuring 1,038.069 SQM, located in Lekki Foreshore Estate Scheme, Block A, Plot 4, Foreshore Estate, Eti-Osa, Local Government Area, an estate located on 100, Cottonwood Coppell Texas Drive, Coppell, Texas, owned by Lipam Investment Services. A land at No. 1 Gunmi Oulud Street, Marua, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, and a property situated on number 8 Bayokoko Road, Koi, Lagos. The court also ordered the final forfeiture of €20,000, €20,000 and £1,999 and 50 pence, £1,999,050 shillings trust to exact quote Bureau de Change, an investment worth $900,000, $900,000 trust to Anita Joy Omol in Titan Bank, investment worth $4,414,801.76, $4,414,801.76 trust to Deep Blue Energy Service Limited in First Bank, and $283,086,186 Nairas and 73 Kobos, $283,086,186 Naira, 73 Kobo trust to Lipam Investment Services.
Osazuwa Corneille, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
United States President Donald Trump has said that if the war in Ukraine is not stopped now, it could lead or escalate to World War III, with the visiting French President Emmanuel Macron insisting that Russia is the aggressor of the war, hence Russia must pay damages as part of the negotiations for the peace deal. But the US, in another meeting at the United Nations General Assembly on Monday, joined Russia to vote against a resolution condemning Russia over the war in Ukraine. Trump and Macron answered questions from the White House reporters after the French president attended the G7 meeting in Washington on Monday. President Emmanuel Macron during the press talks corrected the US President Donald Trump after Trump said Europe would get its money back from Ukraine. The two presidents spoke to the reporters during a meeting at the Oval Office in the White House in Washington, D.C., when Trump said Europe was loaning its aid money to Ukraine and they would get the money back. Macron interjected and said, "No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort and it was loans, guarantees, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear." Adding that Europe has billions of Russia-frozen assets which member countries in the continent intend to use to get their money back during peace negotiations with Russia. Macron added that, in respect to international law, European countries in possession of the Russia-frozen assets can only use proceeds of the frozen assets while the war is still ongoing, but they cannot take over or take possession of the assets until a peace deal is entered with Russia. It would be recalled that Trump and his team have been negotiating a minerals revenue sharing agreement with Ukraine to recoup some of the money that the previous Biden administration had sent to Kyiv in the form of weapons to repel Russia. Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump have sought to smooth a transatlantic rift on Ukraine, as the US president said Vladimir Putin was willing to accept the presence of European peacekeepers to end the war. Trump said Vladimir Putin has no objections to European peacekeepers post-peace deal but warned the war could escalate into World War III if not resolved. Trump also stated that he is helping Ukraine like no one has before. Donald Trump said the Ukraine war could end within weeks as he met with French President Emmanuel Macron at the White House to discuss the conflict. Meanwhile, US joined Russia to vote against a resolution condemning Russia as the aggressor in the war in Ukraine, but larger numbers of members of the United Nations on Monday voted in favor of the resolution supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity in the face of staunch opposition from Washington, which pushed its own language that declined to blame Russia for the war or mention Kyiv's borders. The European-backed resolution marking the conflict's third anniversary won 93 votes for and 18 votes against, with 65 abstentions. Washington sided with Moscow, as well as Russian allies Belarus, North Korea and Sudan, to vote against. Close observers said that the resolution won far less support compared to previous resolutions on the war. The US drafted another resolution in favor of Russia with the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, calling the US resolution a step in the right direction amid a sudden thaw between Russia and the US under Trump. But France put forward amendments to the US text telling the General Assembly that Paris, along with European countries and Britain, would not be able to support in its current form. The countries, all backers of Ukraine, pushed to reward the US text to say that the full-scale invasion of Ukraine has been undertaken by Russia. We had reported that, following the public criticism of President Donald Trump of the United States that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, is a man who has lost touch with his people and a dictator who refused to conduct election for new leader to take over the affairs of the country, Zelensky, while asked if he could resign by a journalist at a press conference organized to mark the third-year anniversary of war in Ukraine, says he would do that if it would bring peace to Ukraine, and he's ready to do that as exchange for Ukraine to be enlisted as a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. We had earlier reported that despite the medical condition that he's under the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the third-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russian government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war which started on February 24, 2022 as painful, shameful for all humanity. Previously, we reported that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelensky stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began, United States, US President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelensky a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past US President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of US taxpayers' money on a war the North America country will not get any profit in return, with the Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst.
I just want to tell you a little story. So we were at the Eiffel Tower having dinner with your wonderful wife and with my wonderful wife, and we came out and he started speaking the French deal. And we didn't have an interpreter, and he was going on and on and on, and I was just nodding, yes, yes, yes. And he really sold me out, because I got back the next day and I read the papers. I said, that's not what we said. He's a smart customer, I will tell you that.
How would you modify your relationship? Mr. President, you called Zelensky a dictator. Would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens. I think we have a chance of a really good settlement between various countries. And, you know, you're talking about Europe, and you're talking about Ukraine as part of that whole situation. The other side has a lot of support also. So let's see how it all works out. It might work out. Look, you can never make up lives. The one thing you can make up the money, but you can't make up the lives. A lot of lives lost. I think probably a lot more lives than people are talking about. It's been a rough war, but I think we're close to getting it solved.
Question about Doge, sir. Do you think that Doge could benefit from more streamlined communications? There was that email telling employees to give 5 things that they've done last week. Agency heads then told people to ignore it, but Elon Musk...
about the last email that was sent, where he wanted to know what you did this week. You know why he wanted that, by the way? I thought it was great, because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to find, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group. So what they're doing is they're trying to find out who's working for the government. Are we paying other people that aren't working? And where's all that? Where's the money going? We have found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud so far, and we've just started. We're actually going to Fort Knox to see if the gold is there, because maybe somebody stole the gold. Tons of gold.
Some of the agencies.
So I think it was actually, there was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people, please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
Some of the agency heads instructed their employees not to respond because they were waiting on further guidance, but Elon Musk's tweet said a failure to respond would be taken as a resignation. So there's been a disconnect in communications.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all about
Only,
that?
No. That was done in a friendly manner. Only things such as perhaps Marco at State Department, where they have very confidential things, or the FBI, where they're working on confidential things. And they don't mean that in any way combatively with Elon. They're just saying there are some people that you don't want to really have them tell you what they're working on last week. But other than that, I think everyone thought it was a pretty ingenious idea. We have to find out where these people are. Who are they? And we said, if you don't respond, we assume you're not around.
And that holds, that stands.
And you're not getting paid anymore, too. So, we're doing a real job. And we just had a poll come out, I guess the Harvard poll, saying that it's massively popular what we're doing.
Mr. President, do you still believe in NATO, in the alliance between Europe and America in NATO? Are you going to go to
NATO
the
is
summit in June?
very much involved in this. When I first got elected at the very beginning, first term, I got hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO. NATO had no money because they hadn't paid for years. And I said, look, if you don't pay, we're not going to be a part of NATO. We're not going to protect. We're not going to do what we're supposed to do. And we took in hundreds of billions of dollars into NATO. No, NATO is a good thing if it's done properly and if it's used properly.
Mr. President, in these days you speak a lot about the tariff in Canada, in Mexico, and in Europe. I want to know what is your idea about Italy, if you want to make the same thing.
What? Can you talk up a little louder?
In these days.
No, louder. Can you talk a little louder? You have a beautiful voice, but you're not.
In these days you speak.
Where are you from?
Italy.
From Italy. Oh, I love Italy. Go ahead.
I want to know if you have the same idea with Italy about tariff.
Well, look, I love Italy, and Italy is a very important nation. We have a wonderful woman as your leader, and she was on the conversation today, one that we had, the G7. And no, I think Italy is doing very well. I think Italy's got very strong leadership with Georgia.
Monsieur le Président, qu'est-ce que vous répondez au président Trump qui a dit que les Français et les Britanniques n'avaient pas...
Any other questions over here? Yes, ma'am.
Can you clarify what you meant in your truth today on the major economic development transactions between the U.S. and Russia? More detail?
With respect to what, Russia?
In solving a peace deal, you said there will be major economic development transactions which will take place between the United States and Russia.
Yeah, we're trying to do some economic development deals. They have a lot of things that we want, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know if that will come to fruition, but we'd love to be able to do that if we could. They have massive rare earth. It's a very large, it's actually the largest in terms of land. It's by far the largest country. And they have very valuable things that we could use, and we have things that they could use, and it would be very good if we could do that. I think it would be a very good thing for world peace and lasting peace. Well, I mean, our first, by far, our first thing that we want to do, the first element of the overall transaction is ending the war. But if, just as we're doing with Ukraine, if we could do some economic development in terms of Russia and getting things that we want, something like that would be possible, yes.
Can you explain the rationale, sir, in the U.S.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Can you explain the rationale in having the U.S. vote against the UN resolutions that Ukraine proposed and also the U.S. proposed?
I would rather not explain it now, but it's sort of self-evident, I think.
Mr. President, first of all, it's about increasing the tariffs on products from the European Union. Is that still something you want to do today?
Well, it's not increasing, it's reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them. So it's not a question of increasing. If they charge us 20%, we charge them 20%. If they charge us 30 or 40%, then we do that too. So that would be on European Union, but that really would be with respect to everything. It's reciprocity. So reciprocal. Whatever they charge us, we charge them. Nobody has a problem. Even you, I see you don't have a problem anymore, right?
Mr. President, are you thinking of going to Moscow soon, maybe in May for the 9th of May for the anniversary?
I mean, not soon, but I would be certainly, if this all gets settled out, which I think it will, sure, I would go there.
On the 9th of
and
May?
you'd come here too.
On the 9th of May on the Red Square?
I don't know the 9th of May, no, I don't. I think that's pretty soon. But no, at the appropriate time, I would go to Moscow.
Monsieur le Président, est-ce que l'envoi de troupes françaises ou européennes est envisagé en Ukraine?
Within weeks. Yeah. Don't you think so? I'd like to have you. I think we could end it within weeks if we're smart. If we're not smart, it'll keep going, and we'll keep losing young, beautiful people that shouldn't be dying. And we don't want that. And remember what I said, this could escalate into a third world war. And we don't want that either.
Mr. President, your envoy Steve Witkoff suggested a temporary ceasefire in the conflict, but the Russian government has denied that out of hand. Are you worried that they're not feeling in good faith?
No, I think they, at some point, will agree to that. I think they probably wanted to. And I think once you have a ceasefire, it's going to end, because they're not going from a ceasefire back to war. I think people have had their full. I'm just glad I was able to help, because there was no communication with Russia until I came along. Biden didn't communicate. He couldn't communicate with his own child. So Biden didn't communicate. He couldn't. It was terrible. He hadn't spoken to Putin in 3 years. You're trying to end a war. People are being killed. Every week, thousands of people are being killed. Soldiers, in this case, mostly. Also towns, as missiles go in and back and forth. No, it's a shame. This should have never happened. This is a very sad, this is going to go down in the history books. This is a very sad moment, because that should have been stopped. That should have never started. And if it did start, it should have stopped the first week, not 3 years later. Okay?
Je vais répondre, if you allow me, because je pense que plusieurs questions de vous et de votre collègue qui ont été posées en français et qui rejoignent les questions posées par les collègues américains. D'abord, cette discussion est utile et construire la paix est une nécessité. La deuxième chose, c'est qu'il y a aujourd'hui une capacité de dissuasion qui est restaurée, et que c'est ce que veut dire le président Trump quand il n'y aura plus de problème. Je pense que la force du réengagement américain aujourd'hui, c'est en quelque sorte l'incertitude aussi pour le président Poutine. Et donc il y a une capacité de dissuasion qui est là, qui permet de sceller d'abord sans doute une trêve, la capacité à vérifier que cette trêve est respectée, et ensuite un accord de paix qui permettra de reconstruire l'Ukraine, mais de lui apporter aussi les garanties de sécurité. Dans le cadre de ces garanties de sécurité, nous pensons que nous avons notre rôle à jouer. Et donc, on verra à ce moment-là de la discussion, je ne veux pas la préempter, ce qui est nécessaire pour que l'Ukraine puisse rester un pays souverain. Et d'ailleurs, dans les discussions entre l'Ukraine et les États-Unis d'Amérique, il y a cette question d'une souveraineté ukrainienne qui est respectée. Et donc, nous, ce que nous avons préparé en particulier avec nos partenaires britanniques, dans le cadre d'un travail très étroit qu'on a mené ces dernières semaines, et partagé avec tous les pays européens et alliés qui sont prêts à s'y joindre, c'est l'idée de dire on est prêt à apporter ces garanties de sécurité. Les conditions, elles doivent en être définies.
Par l'envoi de troupes ?
Elles doivent être définies par l'accord. Ça peut aller jusqu'à l'envoi, comme l'a dit le président, de troupes qui iront observer que la paix est bien respectée, qui iront se positionner, pas sur la ligne de front, pas pour justement, en quelque sorte, être dans le conflit, mais marquer une présence comme une garantie. Il y a d'autres moyens de soutenir qui peuvent être des soutiens accrus et capacitaires à l'armée, des structures nouvelles. Et je pense aussi que l'accord qui est discuté, le président l'a dit, la crédibilité américaine qui est mise dans ce moment, c'est aussi montrer que chacun est dans son rôle, mais que nous avons une unité, Européens et Américains, et donc avec une forme de garantie que les Américains prennent par la discussion sur les minerais critiques qui sont en train de finaliser.
That is the most beautiful language. I have no idea what he's saying, but that is the most elegant, beautiful language. Go ahead, please.
This is a question that was asked by several.
What we need to do is make sure that we are building peace. We have
Can you speak up, please?
We have deterrence capabilities that have been restored. As President Trump said, there won't be any more problems. We've seen the U.S. re-engagement and the message that that sends to Mr. Putin. We have deterrence, which will allow a truce to take place, verification of that truce, and then a peace agreement can be put in place so that we can start rebuilding Ukraine with security guarantees. And we have a role to play in that. Again, I'm not preempting any discussions, but we've spoken about Ukraine's sovereignty, and that has been a subject of discussion between the U.S. and Ukraine. We have also been working closely with our British partners this week. We've shared this information with other European countries, and we are ready and willing to provide those security guarantees, which could perhaps include troops, but they would be there to maintain peace. They would not be along the front lines. They would not be part of any conflict. They would be there to ensure that the peace is respected. Our assistance may include other capacity building, perhaps for the military. We see U.S. credibility here. We each have our role to play, but it will be done in a united fashion.
Mr. President, do you think that Ukraine should give up a part of its territory?
Well, we're going to see. It's a negotiation that's just starting, and they've been fighting, and there's been a lot of land that's been taken. So we'll have to see how that works out. That's part of the negotiation. I will say there was great unity in that room today. We were via Skype or whatever, but it was great, tremendous unity today in that room with the other countries.
Ukraine wants those territories back. Can they take it back? What they lost in the past years?
That's not an easy thing to do, is it? Right? It's not an easy. Just asking whether or not you can take back the land that they lost. And I say that, yeah, perhaps some of it, yeah, I hope so. But that's not an easy thing to do.
Macron on the frozen
It's going to be something we're talking about.
Will you convince Vladimir Putin to accept the European troops as peacekeeper, would you think?
Yeah, he will accept that.
He will accept
I've asked him that question.
You talked to him?
I've asked him that question.
Is France going to lift the block on the $300 billion?
Look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for more war. He doesn't mind. But I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
Is France going to lift the block on the $300 billion in frozen Russian assets in Belgium? France has opposed unfreezing it to pay Ukraine and compensate the U.S. for its support. Is France going to lift its opposition to that?
This is, we speak about frozen assets. We already used them to back precisely the loans negotiated at the G7. And it's part of the sanctions, so it will depend on the follow-up of the discussions. But clearly we respect international law. It's just frozen assets now. You can take the proceeds of the frozen assets, but you cannot take the assets themselves because it's not respecting international law, and we want to respect international law.
How is one different than the other? You can take the proceeds from it, how can you not take
Because
the
it's very different. You keep the assets, you take the proceeds because they are paralyzed in a certain way. You take the proceeds during the wartime, but you keep the assets, and it's part of the negotiation at the end of the war. Because, this war costed all of us a lot of money. And this is the responsibility of Russia, because the aggressor is Russia.
Should the U.S. be compensated?
So at the end of the day, this frozen asset should be part of the negotiation, all in all.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated, because they are the ones who have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear, we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe. Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia will have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
but they get their money back and we don't, and now we do. But that's only fair.
Mr. President, should be more money than they should be the one that pays everybody back. Are they the aggressors?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things. And we're going to be making a little speech and say a few words in a little while. We're going to have another meeting, a luncheon meeting, and we'll see you in about 2 hours. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred, for moving out.
Let's go. Let's go.
Moving out, Cameron.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, headed out this door right here, right here. We're moving out.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Right. Osazuwa Connedio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Incoming Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz on Monday says the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu can visit Germany despite the arrest warrant issued on the Israeli leader by the International Criminal Court, ICC, over Israel war with Palestinian fighters, Hamas in Gaza. Just as Merz also said that his government will do all he could to build good ties with President Donald Trump-led U.S. government, but he's ready for the worst if the U.S. decided to act otherwise. Friedrich Merz, who spoke in his native language during a press conference in Berlin, Germany on Monday, said he would make sure Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could visit Germany despite the ICC arrest order. The press conference held a day after his Conservative Christian Democratic Union (CDU) party won national elections, so Merz saying he had told Netanyahu in a congratulatory phone call that the pair should meet after a new German government is formed. Friedrich Merz, in his words, as interpreted and reported by Al Jazeera, said, in the event that he, Netanyahu, plans to visit Germany, I have promised myself that we will find a way to ensure that he can visit Germany and live again without being arrested. I think it's a really absurd idea that an Israeli prime minister can't visit the Federal Republic of Germany. He will be able to visit Germany, Merz said. Netanyahu's office has said Merz had invited the Israeli prime minister to make an official visit to Germany, in overt defiance of the scandalous International Criminal Court decision to label the Prime Minister a war criminal. In a statement on Monday made available by the Office of the Israel Prime Minister, indicated that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a warm conversation with Friedrich Merz, who, following his victory in the German elections, has become Chancellor-designate, and congratulated him on his victory. Chancellor-designate Merz thanked the Prime Minister for the conversation and said that he would invite him to make an official visit to Germany, in overt defiance of the scandalous International Criminal Court decision to label the Prime Minister a war criminal. It would be recalled that, in November 2024, the Hague-based ICC issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his former defense minister Yoav Gallant, as well as Hamas commander Mohammed Deif, on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Both Israel and Hamas say Deif was killed in July in an Israeli airstrike, and Deif has not been seen in public ever since. AFP International News Agency also reported that the German Conservative election winner Friedrich Merz said Monday that he would seek good ties with the United States under President Donald Trump, but was also ready for the worst-case scenario. I hope that we can convince the Americans that it is in our mutual interest to maintain good transatlantic relations, Merz said at a press conference, a day after his CDU-CSU alliance came first in national elections. But as always, you have to deal with the worst-case scenario, he said, warning that all the signals we are receiving from the United States indicate that interest in Europe is decreasing. Merz also said he had a lengthy call with Emmanuel Macron late Sunday, as the French president headed to Washington to meet with Trump. We discussed the topics he wants to address with the American president, and I found that there was complete agreement between what he wants to say and what I want to say on transatlantic ties, Merz said. International relations between US and the European countries apparently began to strain when President Donald Trump brushed aside European allies when he declared his readiness to resume diplomacy with Russian President Vladimir Putin and to hold talks without the involvement of European nations or Ukraine. President Donald Trump thereafter was apparently seen to have repeated Russian talking points about Ukraine's supposed responsibility in starting the war, raising concern in Europe that Donald Trump would agree to Moscow's terms. AFP also reported that the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, also caused shock in Europe this month when he used a speech at a security forum in Munich to criticize the EU on issues ranging from immigration to free speech. Earlier, we reported that Friedrich Merz, the newly elected incoming German Chancellor, has said that his aim is to achieve Europe independence from the United States, saying, "The current US President, Donald Trump, cares less about the security of European countries and promised to work with the prime ministers and leaders of other European countries to set up alternative Europe Defense Alliance Treaty Organization by June 2025 when the meeting of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, will be held, adding, Ukraine will be put in a position of strength."
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Friedrich Merz, the newly elected incoming German Chancellor, has said that his aim is to achieve Europe independence from the United States, saying, "The current US President, Donald Trump, cares less about the security of European countries and promised to work with the prime ministers and leaders of other European countries to set up alternative Europe Defense Alliance Treaty Organization by June 2025 when the meeting of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, will be held, adding, Ukraine will be put in a position of strength." Friedrich Merz stated this at a televised roundtable discussion with political leaders on Sunday after his party, Christian Democratic Union, CDU, and Christian Social Union, CSU, won 208 seats to score 28.6% of the vote in the Sunday federal elections in Germany. The Alternative for Germany, AfD political party, came second in the election with 152 seats, winning 20.8% of the vote. AfD shared opposing views with other political parties in Germany, and the views are apparently in line with the style of administration President Donald Trump is currently administering in the United States. AfD was supported by US tech billionaire Elon Musk during the electioneering campaign. Mobs of left-wing protesters took to the streets on Sunday to make a scene in Germany following the AfD's significant achievement of capturing 20.8% of the vote. Prior to the election date, an estimated 250 people took to the streets in Amsterdam to protest against the AfD political leader, Alice Weidel, a place where the politician has lived in the district of Amsterdam with her partner and 2 children since 2018. It would be recalled that in early 2024, there were widespread protests against the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD party in Germany, following a report by a group of investigative journalists that reported AfD proposals to organize mass deportations of foreign-born Germans, including those with German citizenship. The protesters said they were out on the streets to defend the German democracy from the AfD, with many protesters calling for the party to be investigated by the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, or banned altogether. Similarly, a second wave of protests erupted in early 2025, shortly before the federal election held on Sunday the 23rd of February 2025, and the citizens of the European country continued the third wave of the protest after AfD, backed by US government official Elon Musk, secured 152 seats, which stand out to be the best election result the AfD party has ever secured in a national poll. This, local observers in Germany say Friedrich Merz and his political party will likely face complex negotiations with their rival political party to form a coalition government. President Donald Trump, while reacting to the German elections via his Truth social media handle, said, "Looks like the Conservative Party in Germany has won the very big and highly anticipated election. Much like the USA, the people of Germany got tired of the no common sense agenda, especially on energy and immigration, that has prevailed for so many years. This is a great day for Germany, and for the United States of America under the leadership of a gentleman named Donald J. Trump. Congratulations to all, many more victories to follow." The new incoming leader of Germany, Friedrich Merz, during the roundtable discussion called out Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and J.D. Vance. He spoke in a native language, and the statements read below in quotes as translated and interpreted in English language by local media. I am communicating closely with a lot of prime ministers and heads of EU states, and for me it is an absolute priority to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible so that we achieve independence from the US, step by step. I never thought that I would ever need to say something like that on television, but after the latest statements made by Donald Trump last week, it is clear that the Americans, at any case these Americans, this administration, mostly don't care about the fate of Europe one way or another. He also slammed Elon Musk and J.D. Vance for interfering in their elections. Interventions from Washington were no less dramatic, and ultimately no less brazen than the intervention that we have seen from Moscow. After the roundtable discussion, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine issued a congratulatory message on his X social media account and tweeted thus: "I congratulate the CDU, CSU and Friedrich Merz on their victory in the Bundestag elections. A clear voice from the voters, and we see how important this is for Europe. We look forward to continuing our joint work with Germany to protect lives, bring real peace closer to Ukraine, and strengthen Europe. Europe must be able to defend itself, develop its industries, and achieve the necessary results. Europe needs shared successes, and those successes will bring even greater unity to Europe." Friedrich Merz also took to his X social media account on Monday and issued a tweet to mark the third-year anniversary of war in Ukraine. He said, "3 years of Russian war of aggression against the Ukraine. 3 years of war in Europe. For 3 years, we have been accompanied by the terrible images of destruction and war crimes. Europe remains firmly on the side of Ukraine. Now more than ever, we must put Ukraine in a position of strength. For just peace, the attacked country must be part of peace negotiations." Meanwhile, a video posted online by Sky News showed a German voter telling Sky News reporter that she has prepared passports so her family can leave after the far-right party, AfD, achieved a historic result in Germany's federal election. The results released by the Electoral Authority showed the conservative Christian Democrats and the center-left Social Democrats winning a combined majority of seats in the national legislature after small parties failed to meet the electoral threshold. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz considered defeat for his center-left Social Democrats, SPD, after what he called a bitter election result on Sunday. The poll results showed his party secured third place, taking just 16% of the votes, with observers describing the SPD outing in the election as its worst post-war result in a national parliamentary election. The German Defense Minister, Boris Pistorius, described the result as devastating, catastrophic, while Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said that democratic parties must now act in unison. "I am responsible for this election result," Mr. Scholz said, adding that, "We must never work with the far right." Other minor parties have failed to meet the 5% threshold in the proportional German parliamentary system, limiting the possible options for a government to take shape. Scholz, apparently shocked over the interventions of the Trump White House on behalf of the AfD, called Musk's vocal support for the party disgusting. In recent months, Musk has become an ardent supporter of the anti-immigration, anti-Muslim party, while Vice President J.D. Vance has also pledged support, according to local and international news media.
Congo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.